You are now listening to Highline's newest social justice podcast, Safer Sound. In this radio show, we will open our minds and our hearts to new perspectives and new people. Let's explore together the meaning of creating true safe spaces in the Puget Sound and our local areas, especially through a transformative justice lens. Transformative justice is all about getting to the root of the systemic issues that continue to threaten the safety of our communities, not just physical, but also psychological and emotional safety. We want to see a more safe and more harmonious future for everyone in the Puget Sound region. Shout out to the Highline Heritage Museum for serving as our home base, and to One America 106.5 Low Power FM for offering this beautiful and unique space for us to have this show. We also want to give a shout out to Washington State Historical Society for sponsoring and making this show possible. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Thien Van, and I'm so excited to talk with you. Welcome everyone to Safer Sound. I wanted to introduce a new guest here, Yvette, who I met through VTRU, and she actually has her own show called Con Sentido, which you can check out on VTRU, on their Facebook or their website. I would highly recommend checking it out. It's a really great show. And would you mind telling us a little bit about your show?
Sure. It's about mental health, and it's about terminology we use in mental health to demystify a lot of terms that we are using every day and we shouldn't be using, but also to advocate for the mental health of the Latino community and how can the Latino community get resources in Pierce County specifically around mental health.
Okay, that was good. Thank you. Thank you for telling us that, because I think that really is important and plays into not just the general work you're doing, but also connected to your work as a crisis clinician.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you more about that. Do you mind just sharing something about yourself as well?
Sure.
And then how you got into being a crisis clinician?
Sure. Yeah. So I don't know how much you want to be sure about myself, but I was born in California, but I was raised in Mexico, and then I studied in Mexico too. And then when I was 25, I decided to immigrate back here due to some things that were going on in Mexico.
Oh, you did a little back and forth.
Yeah. But I don't have family here in the U.S. Everybody's down in Mexico. So I moved here by myself. It was a big transition. And I wasn't able to continue working on what I studied over there, so I had to transition and figure out life here by myself. So that kind of got me into mental health. Then I studied psychology in UW, UW-T, and then I got into the role I currently do, which is I'm a crisis clinician for Catholic Community Services. We serve, specifically where I am, we serve Pierce County. Mm-hmm. So if you're a teenager, you're a kid, and you're experiencing, suicidal ideation, self-harm behaviors, aggressive behaviors, and you're in a crisis situation, you call the crisis line for Pierce County, and I'll show up, or one of my colleagues will show up.
Wow. Yeah. Mm-hmm. What an important thing to do, because you're really catching people at such a vulnerable time.
Yeah. I love what we do because it's nice to know that Pierce County does offer that kind of support, but also in-person support. But also I love seeing when kids just switch, when mental health makes sense for them. And I love trying to figure out how mental health is going to make sense to you. We hear about depression, we hear about anxiety, we hear about PTSD, but we don't hear about how those terms affect individually and what it's going to be that follow-up. Just because you hear about coping skills, it doesn't mean they're going to work for you. We need to figure out what works specifically for you. So I like that. I really like that part of figuring everything out.
Okay, yeah. So I see you bring in a little bit your psychology degree in there.
Yes. Yeah.
your area of work. What was your specific studies in the psychology major?
It was psychology, just like that, just psychology. I focused a lot of minority mental health. So I studied a lot about I took a couple classes of psychology of Black women. I took a couple classes of the Latino studies, sociology of Latinos. I mean, it was kind of yes, I'm Latina, but my background is different because I'm an immigrant, right? The way I view the world as a Latina here is not the same way as Latinos that were born and raised here view it. So for me to be able to understand the system and for me to be able to understand how it's viewed here in the U.S. right now, I needed to study it. If that makes any sense.
Yes, no, that makes sense, and you offer that unique perspective.
Yeah. So moving forward, I just got accepted in POU for my master's, and
congratulations.
Thank you. Yes, it's very exciting. And moving forward, what I want to do is research the mental health of the immigration community, specific Latino, because that's my background. To there is a lot of change, there's a lot of shock that happens, so I just want to be able to provide resources in a way that makes sense, and I think there's not enough of those.
Yeah, you're really trying to meet them where they're at.
Yes, exactly, and talk the language they need to talk, and I don't mean about Spanish or English, I just mean about just what makes sense for you when I'm talking to you about mental health.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Are you recording?
I think I am. Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
We'll do a little skip. No, I'll include you in there. Be careful. Excuse me if this is something that you don't want to share about, but I wanted to ask you your own personal journey.
Yeah.
With mental health and
So I struggled a lot with mental health. Again, growing up in a Hispanic household, there's a lot of things that are not okay. There's this comedian, I think it's very funny, and this might be something that's very relatable for Latinos only, but when a kid gets hurt, you say, sana sana colita de rana, right? So, and the comedian is no sana sana is gonna cure my depression, right? And it's true. I feel it's something we didn't talk a lot growing up, and I struggled a lot. I was always very hyperactive, and I was always seen as the bad kid because I was not able to sit still.
Oh, you were bad?
So I was the bad kid, the rebel kid, the one that never sat down, and turns out I have ADHD, right? So it's it wasn't I was a bad kid.
Same for both. I was bad and I have ADHD.
Yeah, so it's I wasn't bad. I was not diagnosed, and so I think that was one of my struggles growing up. I felt nobody really understood me. And then I did struggle with self-harm. I did struggle with suicidal ideation. And it was something that even when I tried talking to my parents about it, it wasn't something they knew what to do with it. So, then life happened. I started communication in Mexico, and I was okay with that. Then I had to move here because of things over there. And I felt very lonely here, I've struggled a lot with making connections, making friends. Washington is a very difficult place to meet people and make friends. So I struggled a lot, and I started working out a lot and became super, super fit for a while. I was into running, doing marathons.
Oh, dang, you would do
I was
you do the most.
And it really pushed me to and that's when I felt connected. That's when things started to make sense, and that's when I was starting to study psychology, because I thought, mental health and your physical health kind of go together. In my own journey, I gained some of the weight back that I lost, not all of it, but I gained some, and it has been a struggle to try to get back to where I was. But something that's been helpful is because of the studies that I have now, makes me understand a lot of where I am, why I'm there, what do I need to do to move forward. But it also gives me the tools to help my community in a way that makes sense. You talk to me, I'm not, my professors talk to me about depression, my coworkers talk to me about depression. I don't tell you those words like that. I'm like, well, what are you feeling? You know, like you explain it to me in a way that makes sense to you, and then we'll use your terminology. So yeah, so that's a little bit about just like what got me into it. I do struggle. Like I said, I was diagnosed with ADHD as an adult, so...
Oh, wow. Well, so how long ago was that?
Like 3 or 4 years ago. Like, it wasn't that long ago. I knew I had ADHD. Like, I knew it, but I was like, I'm not gonna self-diagnose. Like, then I talked with my therapist at the time, and it's like, listen, this is what's going on. And he was like, have you ever been diagnosed? Like, no. So then we went through the process of being diagnosed, and it's like, you have ADHD. I'm like, I knew it, but, you know, I don't want to say it until... You know.
Yeah, I feel like that was my experience too. Like I came in knowing I had it, but I was like, okay, let's just get this diagnosis over with.
So and it made a lot of sense because I'm always very hyperactive. I'm fidgety, you know. I'm 37 right now, and people kept telling me, oh, when you're 20, you're going to come down. When you're 25, you're going to come down. When you're 30, you're going to... I'm close to 40 now, and I'm hyper. Like, I have to do 2 or 3 things at the same time, and I have to work out, and I have to, like... And it's just... I always assume it was my personality. And it's like, no, there's something else going on.
That's so hard on you.
Yeah.
Because you're taking that, like, that fault, and you like, think that it's you.
Yeah. So because it helped me a lot to understand me, like, it's makes me also want to advocate for those that might experience something similar, but don't want to put a tag on it or don't know what tag to put on it, too.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah, the labels can be hard. And I hear that you're saying, like, more personalized experience, more descriptive words, not just these generalized words.
Not symptoms, yeah, exactly. Like, you're not a number, you're not a symptom, you're not a diagnosis. You are you, and what is going to make sense for you to get the help you want to get, you know? So that's a lot of, like, my approach. Even with my kiddos right now, that's my approach. Like, let's not talk about your ADHD, but let's talk about what you're thinking right now.
Yes.
What you're feeling,
like,
what makes sense.
On?
Yeah.
Yeah, like just at the simple level, like not trying to overcomplicate it. Because that's when it gets like hard to talk
and
about. And
overwhelming.
You don't understand it. Yeah. Definitely. That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
So how did you get into this work then? Like what made you take that step? Because that's a big step.
Yeah. So before this, I was a medical and social service interpreter while I was going to school. And I was already, like, involved in community at that point and wanting to help others. I got involved in a couple of linguistic justice projects. So I already knew community at that point. And then, you know, I was finishing my BA in psychology, and I was like, okay, I need to do something with this. And I just started asking around if anyone knew a job that, you know, would want to hire somebody that just came out of college. And I was lucky because I applied to this job, and I had a running friend at the time who was in that same office, and she's like, oh, that's so weird, I worked there. It's like, oh, that's so weird, I just applied there. And she, I guess, kind of helped me to, like, put a good word in me, like, you know, that I'll learn quick. And yeah, so that's how I started there. I wasn't sure if that was something I wanted to do, but it was a good start for mental health. But the more I'm there, the more I like it, because I work with kids and teenagers, and that's when I wish somebody was there. Not my parents. I think they did the best they could, and I'm very thankful, but somebody else to help me and try to figure out what I was thinking. And, you know, so now I'm that person for them, and I like that. I really like that experience. But moving forward, I still think research is something that really caught my attention, because when I was in UW, I noticed that there was not a lot of information about mental health of immigrants. You know, like, there's just not. So I want to bring that to the table. Like, why are we not talking more about this, you know? And why are we treating the mental health of immigrants the same way that we treat everybody's mental health? You know, everybody's journey is so different. Why are we still using terms that only fit a 1%?
Very westernized too. Because I think I remember you telling me, like, certain, like, Vietnamese people, for example, like, it's very culturally specific, and the reasons as to why it's different, like, the, you know, the pathway to those unfortunate thoughts is different for everyone.
And that's the other thing. Like, I feel a lot of people that work mental health, we want to be able to help in the level that makes sense for that person and family. But if there's nothing that let us know how we're supposed to help, how are we supposed to do it, you know? And So that's why, like I said, that's why research is like something that I'm really interested in, like moving forward.
Okay, well, hopefully we'll see more of that in the
Yeah.
master's program.
Yes, yeah, hopefully.
I'll definitely have to interview you after, see what you're learning. You can share with the rest of us. So you mentioned that you work with kids and teens. Is that the main
Yes.
focus of your?
Right now it is, yeah. Yeah, so my office where I work is specific for kids and teenagers. So if you call the crisis line in Pierce County, you get in-person support for kids and teenagers.
Okay.
If it's for adults, it's different. Like if you call the crisis line, it's a different agency that also helps adults.
Okay.
It's not us.
Okay, well, at least they're like splitting it up into more
yeah.
specialized groups and stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
And that brings me to the question of what have you been noticing, like the discrepancies in certain groups? What have you seen, like especially with like BIPOC or Black Indigenous people of color?
I feel we don't, as communities, I feel we don't know about the resources that are out there. Like, I feel a lot of minority communities don't know how to ask for help and where to ask for help. I still feel that everything is very tailored for the community has been here the longest. And yeah, like honestly, like even the information, we have it in English, but what other availabilities there are, right? Like, and using Google Translate to translate your flyers is not cutting it. It's not culturally adequate. And I see that, like even the way that, and I'm not talking about like my job specifically, I'm just talking about mental health in general. The way that mental health is sold to our communities, doesn't make sense to them.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like almost like the commercialization of it within these systems.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense at all. So I think, that's something I see a lot, and I feel that because of that, those communities don't ask for that help because it's not for me. It's not tailored for me.
They're like, why would I even, like, you can't, like, you're not even trying to understand from the beginning.
Yes.
So, yeah. Okay, I'm really glad that you're, like, in it and doing that.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my gosh, I've struggled too, and, like, I also wish I had someone to talk to.
Yeah.
And I've also been in a place of, like, crises and, like, need to talk to someone.
Yeah.
And, those are really important moments.
Yeah.
Like, very critical moments.
And I feel like
life or death.
Literally. And I feel like there has to be more empathy about everybody's journey, but also with the empathy comes that, like, the bias that any clinician can have or any, therapist can have, but also, like, the cultural awareness, like I feel we don't do enough of cultural awareness.
Oh my gosh.
I had a therapist here in the U.S. that was like, everything that was going on with me is because of my cultural background. It's like, no, like you can use that as an excuse for one time.
What?
Yes, I'm an immigrant. Yes, that's
I'm so sorry.
So now she's like, oh, it's because you're Mexican. It's like, no.
I can't believe that happened.
Like, oh, that's, it was like, and it was funny because she was from a different culture too, and it's like,
so she wasn't like American.
No, she wasn't American.
Like,
but it was like, it's like taking that cultural part to an extreme. Like, you can't blame all my mental health because I'm an immigrant, right? There's gonna be struggles that I'm gonna have, and yes, I want support in a way that makes sense for me, but don't blame everything because I'm not from here, like it was just a weird experience,
because we all feel the same emotions, we just feel them differently or express them
and
differently.
and that's another very interesting thing. The more languages you know, the more emotions you're able to feel.
Ooh, I've definitely noticed that too, is like because you're able to like think in that way, like how
you're able to label something and then you're able to like recognize how it feels. So sometimes it can happen that I just feel and I don't know what it is, but maybe there's a word for it in a different language for that feeling, but because you don't have it, like, I don't know, for me, like one of the clearest examples, it's being overwhelmed. Like being overwhelmed in English doesn't translate as frustrado. It's not the same like feeling, but if you look for the translation, overwhelmed comes out like frustrado, and it's like it's different.
That's the Google Translate version.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like I get to be overwhelmed, but I also get to be frustrada, you know, like I get to experience both emotions because I understand them. And I love that about, like, goes back to the culture and psychology. And I love to be able to understand emotions in 2 different languages. I wish I could, like, have more languages, because then, you know, like, the more emotions I know, I feel also the more equipped I am to understand abroad, just in general.
Yeah, you're like thinking out the box.
Yeah.
Like, is there an example of like a Spanish word that doesn't translate to English?
Well, I mean, it's not about. I feel like the "I love you," you know, in English is "I love you," "I appreciate you," "I care about you," but in Spanish, "te quiero," "te amo," you know, it's like it doesn't. "Te quiero" and "te amo" don't translate the way English portrays it, right? So
because it just translates to "I love you."
both of them do, and it's like it's not the same, you know. So I think that's one of the biggest examples that I can think about, that is like we don't explain it the same way. Another one that I can think from English to Spanish is anxiety. I feel the way we describe anxiety in English, it's not the way you describe it in Spanish, even though it's the word. Like ansioso, anxiety, it is the same word. It is the accurate translation, but culturally, it's not the same thing.
Oh.
So there's like so much behind that word.
Like the cultural context, the connotations, like that. Yeah.
So I think those are a couple examples.
Okay. I love these answers so far. Thank you so much.
Yes, of course.
I wanted to ask about like what can we do? I guess, like, you know, even though we're not crisis trained, but like what about people who want to do something or to support the kind of work that you're doing?
So I think word to word? Word to mouth, mouth to word.
Oh, word of mouth. Yes.
That I think that's very helpful, because I've encountered that a lot of people don't know how crisis services work. They always go to like call the hotline, call the 988, call, you know, and it's not a bad idea, but the hotline is going to connect you to a different hotline that's going to connect you to a different, you know, like it's steps. So the more direct help you can get is call your crisis line from your county. Each county has a specific crisis line, call that crisis line.
Okay.
And I think letting other people know about those kind of services, you know, like calling the crisis line, they won't ask you for any type of documentation. They won't ask you for any type of insurance. Okay. They'll just be there to help. So.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
Yeah, so we'll figure out your things later. Like right now, let's help you. Let's figure out what's going on, and then we can go from there. So, and that's a free service for everybody.
Okay. Do you happen to memorize the number at all to share?
For Pierce County is 1-800-576-7764.
Okay, yes. Beautiful. I'll be sure to like repost it later. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
No, I think that's important. I think that's the way you can help us. Also, demystifying mental health. You know, I think in general, people should stop using terms like, oh, you're being so paranoid, or like, oh, don't be so bipolar. You know, like I've heard some people, words. Like, oh, I think my ex is a narcissist. It's like, don't use words that are that heavy if you're not, you know, like, don't diagnose people.
Yeah.
Just because you're having a bad day, don't even diagnose yourself. Like,
yes.
So it's like, you can be sad, you can be anxious, you can have like spikes of being very happy and very sad. But don't diagnose yourself, and don't use those words like so lightly, because you don't know who can take them serious. So I don't know, like, I guess maybe that's very personal. I don't like when I see that happening, because it's like, you don't know if the person that's next to you might be bipolar, and you're joking about being bipolar might hurt them.
You almost bring a bad feeling to it too. You're attaching a bad thing when it's something people can't even control.
Your diagnosis, your mental health disorders or problems, or they don't define you as a person. You're way more than your diagnosis. So I think that's why I don't like using those terms like so lightly. You know, even with ADHD, people, I feel they romanticize what ADHD is like. It's like, I'm so forgetful.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah, like, I'm forgetful, so I might be ADHD, and it's like, it's so much more like, And I'm sure if you experienced it, our anxiety is through the roof, like overthinking is our second nature. We hear like noise all the time. It's like, that's the part nobody talks about ADHD, right? Because it's not the romantic part. It's not the pretty part of ADHD.
And it's the part that people don't see, too.
And it's the part that we're always trying to mask, or is the part we're always living and nobody realizes.
Ooh.
So, and same with a lot of disorders. You don't know what people are going through to be in a baseline that we're asked to be in society. So talking about mental health disorders, mental health problems just like that, just because I like the word, I think it's harmful.
It does, and it really takes away from the word itself. I mean, like, labels can be helpful and empowering, but they can also, like, if we're not using them correctly, very hurtful.
Yes. Yeah. So I think those two things.
Okay, and I actually have some rapid questions. So these, like, the intention behind these is kind of just to give a short answer so that you don't feel pressure to, like, have to. So I'll start with the first one.
Okay.
So within the system that you're working in, I guess with the county and kind of a government system, right? What would you change about it?
The cultural education we get, the cultural trainings. I think there should be more broad, and there should be more research behind them for us to be able to support and help families in a way that makes sense.
Okay, you're working on that, right? You're gonna be doing research, right?
Yes.
And then I wanted to ask, if you could set a rule that everyone would follow, what would that rule be? Everyone in the world, just like,
I think to stop taking things so personal.
Ooh.
Yeah, that was my rule. Like, I think all of us take things so personal, and we don't realize that you telling me that I'm very loud might not be because you actually think I'm loud and annoying, and I'm already adding annoying to it without you saying I'm annoying. Is maybe you have a migraine, like maybe you're having a migraine,
like,
and that's
overstimulated.
Yes. Yeah. And you telling me don't be too loud is not about how I'm annoying you. It's about how you're feeling. So I think, like, stop taking things so personal. Like road rage, somebody cut you off, it's not about you, it's maybe they didn't even see you,
they don't even know you like that.
Like, why would I hate you that much, so
I hate your car.
Like that color, so I think stop taking things so personal.
Okay, love that. And then next question is, how are you getting through it? Because you're dealing with a lot. Like, it's not easy.
No.
Those heavy feelings.
I'm horrible about putting boundaries. I am very, very bad at putting boundaries. But that's my consistent work with myself. Trying to set boundaries on what I'm willing to do and what I'm willing to not do. Not in my job only. Like, I know my job. I know what I'm supposed to do. Asking for self-time is hard for me. And this is something I talk with my supervisor a lot. Like, I struggle on asking for time off. But I'm starting to do that work, and it's been like very recent that I'm like, okay, these are my limits. This is the time off I need. And they're very good about accommodating that sense. But also, like, in my personal life, I'm the kind of person that will always say yes to helping. So I'm starting to set those boundaries of like, no, today I'm just going to focus on myself. The other thing is I really like working out. So it hasn't been that long. Like, it's been like 3 weeks that I'm really consistent on something right now, and I'm really finding a passion in kickboxing.
Cool.
So I think,
that's
like,
badass.
Yes, I'm like, and I feel like I de-stress, like punching the bag. I'm like, oh, this is very helpful. So I think being able to keep consistent, I put myself this like goal in my head, like at least 3 times a week I'm going to go to my classes, and I've been doing it. So it makes me feel motivated, and it makes me feel better about everything else to be able to disconnect. So those are
Okay.
Yeah.
And last question is, what call to action do you have for our listeners? If they had to take one thing away from this, one thing to do.
I think it's the thing about don't take things so personal. I don't know, there's a lot of them. if you know somebody that's going through a crisis and you don't know how to help them, call the crisis line. I think that would be one of the biggest ones. Call the crisis line. We can help. We're professionals. We're trained for this. Call the crisis line. If you're struggling and you want to talk with somebody, call the crisis line. Yeah, I think that would be call to action. And the other one, maybe like a second part, is like the part of like not using mental health terms in a way that, you know, we shouldn't. Like, no, he's not psycho. No, he's not bipolar. You know, like, no, she's not narcissist. Maybe he is having a bad day. Maybe she is like having spikes of being in a good and a bad mood. Maybe, you know, she thinks a lot about herself. But don't put diagnosis on somebody you don't really know.
Yeah, like put some respect on it. Like,
yeah, even on yourself. Yeah. Like, don't call yourself psycho. Don't call yourself like, I think I'm so bipolar. Like, don't do that. Like,
that is very common.
Yeah.
Especially, I feel like I see it a lot on like social media. Yes. Especially about narcissism.
Yes, I like everybody's a narcissist, and it's like, no, people like.
Like statistically, isn't that like such a small percentage?
Yes, it's like the likelihood that you know somebody that's a narcissist is very, very, very low. Okay. And if you did, you would not be able to recognize them that quick. You know, like, yes, like, no. So stop putting those labels. Like, yeah. So those are my call to actions. Yeah.
Okay, those are some good ones. Yeah. And do you have any final words for like those who are listening, whether it be like words of support or?
I read something today that it really like stuck to me. The thought of it stuck to me, so I might not phrase it the same way, and I'm sorry if I don't. But it was something about don't let your diagnosis or your like mental health disorder define you. You are not your diagnosis. You go out in the rain and you get wet, but you are not rain. Same with diagnosis. You are not your diagnosis. You know, so like it might be part of where you are right now, but that doesn't make you. You're way more than that. You're way more than that. And mental health is not a straight line. That's another big thing. We always think like, I'm doing so much better, and then I have a setback, and it's like, fuck, you know, like I need to start all over again, and I need to like, I'm so bad. And it's like, no, you can have setbacks. Mental health is not a straight line. Mental health has ups and downs, and that's why seeking for help, seeking for support is so important. Yeah. So
yeah, that makes sense. And I heard you mention like people who are maybe helping someone who's dealing with the crisis can call the hotline too.
Yeah. So if you know somebody that's struggling and you don't know how to help them, call the crisis line.
Okay. I wouldn't even think about that. That's actually that's a
like,
great
hey,
idea.
You know, my I don't know, my mom, my dad, my neighbor, my friend is struggling, and I don't know what to do, and I'm concerned about their safety. So it's like, if it would be something like, can we go and support in person? Do you need like, how can we help? You know, what resources we can give from the crisis line, and it goes from there.
Okay, and it's all confidential?
Yes, yeah. So things we talk and see with our clients, we don't, you know, it's between them and us. So yeah. And yeah, so I would say that if you have a teenager, there's something called Teen Link that's also a very good resource.
Teen Link? Is it teenlink.org?
I don't know.
That's the name of the organization.
If you look Teen Link, you'll find it.
Google Teen Link if you got a teen.
Yes, if you do, because it's like, it's they do have a counselor there that supports, but it's teenagers talking to teenagers that are struggling with mental health with the support of a counselor. So sometimes you just need to talk with a stranger. That's kind of the whole thing about Teen Link. So I think it's a good resource too.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you for sharing all these resources.
Oh, no, yeah, of course. And just call the crisis line. Please call the crisis line if you're not doing okay.
Utilize it. Yeah,
yes, it's free. It's free. We don't ask for like, I mean, we ask for, you know, your documentation in the sense of like your name and where you are and how we can meet. But
I guess you can give a fake name.
You can. Well, yeah, but like, it's a free service. Yeah. You know, like moving forward, yes, for other services there might need like insurance or other things, but for crisis specifically, it's a free service.
Okay. Yeah, I want to emphasize that point too for people who are listening, especially if you're just skeptical of systems and it makes you a little nervous. I know that can be a huge barrier
Yes.
for people. So just use the resource how you can, and take what you need from it. You don't have to go any farther than that, but please, if you're going through something, seek help.
Yeah, for real. And I do understand that part of like not wanting to use systems, and it's hard, but we're there, We're
You're there. You're
Yeah,
on the
I'm
other-
there. I'm there. I'm available. And yeah.
Yeah, I'm so glad we could like introduce you, like as a person. It helps like demystify a little more.
Yeah.
Like you're a real person who's been through this,
Yes.
who knows how it feels. And like I love everything that you stand for, like how you understand the cultural differences, and those things are just so lacking right now
Yes.
in the healthcare system and beyond.
Yeah, I would agree. So yeah, and that's why I also want to represent it. Like that's why I keep on trying to work on it, studying it, and finding ways that it will make sense for just more people. Yeah.
Okay, keep doing you. I'm so excited
Thank
for
you.
you.
Yeah.
Congratulations on getting accepted.
Thank you. Yes, I'm very excited about the masters. We'll see how it goes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you everyone for tuning in. I am so excited to share this interview. This is something that I've really been wanting to talk about because I feel like we really don't really get deeper when it comes to these subjects, and it's good to hear from someone who is been through it, but also is helping people through it, and we're all just humans trying to help each other.
Yeah.
So at the baseline, yeah.
I agree.
Okay, well that'll be the end of the interview. Thank you so much, Yvette.
Yes, of course.
I really appreciate
Yeah.
it. That was really great.
Yeah, of course. Let me know if I can help in any other way.
Okay. I'll exit this out. Bye, everyone. Okay, cool. That was so good. Oh my gosh, you were like such a natural.
Thank
I
you.
really appreciate it. Like,
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I'm glad it went good. I feel I'm always very like straight to the point, but I think that's